Hello, everyone. I want to talk about something that's occurred to me in the last few days that I'm going to call atheist culture. This is a response largely to things said by pdoeman and greydonsquare. Let me start by addressing the issue of, or the idea that a war is starting between atheists and the fundies. I don't think the analogy is quite right, or at least not yet. And let me just say, for there to be a war, there has to be two easily identifiable opposing sides. Our problem is that we atheists haven't really established what our side is very well. Primarily, we don't form a cohesive group. So no matter how silly we make the fundies and believers look, no matter how many circles we run around them with our logic or whatever, we will always be seen as marginal because we are so divided and we're so marginal, or at least that's been the perception up until now. And so I'm thinking the atheists need to talk with other atheists. I used to think atheism in the U.S. was marginal and very elitist, and because the numbers were so intimidating. And I was really happy to find the enclave of atheists here on YouTube. But the number of people responding to this blasphemy challenge is truly amazing. And it's not just the mere numbers and the usual suspects who are responding, but there are all these new people who have never posted any videos before. These are clearly people who got motivated that they had to find something to speak about, and atheism, or their own atheism, was their chance to do that. I mean, just at the merest motivation, which is a free DVD. I believe, or I'm an atheist saying I believe, but I think that there must be millions of atheists hiding in their closets all over America. The response from the believers and the fundies are also telling. I think that they fear this. They have never seen an organized movement of atheists before. So here I want to point something out, that moderate believers have a lot of respect with each other's religions. Our media and general discourse really props this up. So no matter what religion you are as a believer in the U.S., if you're a believer, you probably have a rough idea what Christmas, Jesus, Hanukkah, kosher foods, and Mecca are. I mean, you don't make random disparaging remarks about those things. And there's certain latitude afforded for those kinds of things. But with atheism, it's you have nothing but misconception, right? As atheists, we have no morals. We worship the devil, and and really we're just denying a subconscious belief. That's the kind of things that all the believers, all the moderate believers, they all believe that about us. The news stories about the blasphemy challenge, I watched the two of them that were posted onto YouTube, and each one of them used some kind of disparaging or marginalizing adjectives to describe us. They said we're either unusual or controversial. You gotta sit back and think about that. Why is an atheist discussion unusual, and what's controversial? We're describing exactly what our philosophy is. How is that controversial? We deny the existence of all sorts of things. There's nothing controversial there. That's just a restatement of what we are. But we don't have the numbers. But or at least we don't. It's perceived that we don't have the numbers. If in fact we can identify our numbers more realistically, and we find that we are in the millions, this helps us with our biggest weakness, right? Because we are always so marginalized. With numbers we can't be marginalized if we have real numbers. You see, the one thing we want more than anything, or we need, I think, is just an ordinary baseline of respect for atheism. in the modern discourse, right? I believe just that mere step of getting up to the point of respectability equal to other religions would in itself drive a sharp increase in the conversions to atheism. Because atheism is kind of a flaw, if you will. This is a way of thinking about it, but atheism is a kind of flaw-free religion or anti-religion, so that any reasonably intelligent person should naturally gravitate towards atheism. But they don't, because they're blocked by these misconceptions about atheism. After all, we're devil worshippers. So I think Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, and now Brian Fleming all have recognized that our numbers are larger than we suspect. They certainly recognized it before I did. But we have certain natural flaws about us that prevent us from leveraging our numbers. See, we don't have churches, we don't follow messiahs, we don't engage in ritualistic prayers, and we don't idolize some ancient texts. In short, we don't defer to authority, and we don't subject ourselves to indoctrination. So I mean, the idea of a million-man march, say on Washington or whatever, I know where that comes from, but it's a great idea. I wish it could happen, but I don't think atheists are herdable in that way at all. I mean, I just don't think it could happen, actually, because of the nature of atheism, or atheists, I think. But Dawkins has suggested interesting alternatives. For example, we could create political lobbying groups, and we could arrange for secular weddings and funerals. And, but I think that these kinds of things are secondary and kind of misses a more important central point. And that is, I think we atheists, we need to build a culture. And that's what I'm going to call it, the atheist culture. It's not exactly concretely defined what the boundaries of such a thing or what the substance nature of it is. But I think we're seeing the beginnings of that with things like this blasphemy challenge. The YouTube community, I think it's pretty clear that atheists are starting to gravitate here, or somehow that there's some correlation here. I mean, we have to compare this with a few prior failed. Well, I mean, the one key thing that we can compare this to is the Brights movement, and this was an idea by Dennett and a bunch of other people that we might rename ourselves the Brights, and that would make us less intimidating than having a name like atheism or something, be less negative or whatever. But I think that movement has largely failed. I don't, renaming ourselves is not the right answer. We have building a substitute for, what are ordinary religious communities, I think is somewhat better. The movement that I would rather compare, rather than Brights was compared to gay or whatever, but gay culture exists. The thing is, what we should be comparing ourselves to is critical mass, which is a bicycle movement, and you can look that up on Wikipedia, because they are very decentralized, and it is sort of working for them. So Sam Harris says that we have to make a critical examination of religion a non-taboo subject. And I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to say that I perfectly agree with this, and that in itself should actually be at the center of our atheist culture. Just the mere fact that we discuss belief. It should be a kind of central tenet. And so I just had to get this out here and wonder what everybody's thinking about that. Anyways.